Had one request. I'd like that the board would consider having an agenda item on a future meeting to look at the cost, the potential cost of the next teacher's contract. It's going to be a three-year contract. The negotiations are set to begin. And from what I recall 3 years ago when this process was gone through, is that there wasn't a lot of transparency on what the full 3-year cost would be. And the process moved very quickly. There was I believe, a memo of understanding as quickly as January, and then a vote in March. And I remember school committee member David Bernbach specifically saying how there wasn't a lot of analysis done about what the potential 3-year cost would be. The cost of the teacher's contract is about $50 million. It's the single largest collective bargaining agreement in the town, and it does have implications for the Board of Selectmen. We are asked to vote on the school budget every year. So I just think using, again, public information, the teachers' salaries and the step and track and so forth, that maybe the town manager could come back to us with just a general discussion of what the cost of the contract would be under different scenarios of cost of living. The future contract.
The next one.
To show kind of where we are now, the salary table right now, and the teacher's contract would be the baseline. To take that and then to forecast it out, assuming no COLA, and then assuming COLA's at, say 0.5% increments, just so we have a general sense of what the cost of this 3-year teacher's contract is going to look like. If nothing else, so the public, there'll be a public vetting of what the cost of this contract will be. I don't know what the school committee has planned in this regard. I don't know what the finance committee has planned in this regard. But I think we as the Board of Selectmen, because we are asked to vote on the school contract, on the school budget, I mean. And for the last few years, there's been discrepancies between what the school is asking for and what the town manager's recommended budget are. I just like it to be, very transparent as to what the cost of the next teacher's contract will be under different scenarios.
I think going along with the process that was started a couple of months ago, which was the long-range planning that Andrew launched, that I think that's, these things all have to be extrapolated out into it. So, I mean, it's just from a financial modeling standpoint.
That's all. And it's using publicly available data. It's not using anything,
Can we just be projecting?
We would just be projecting.
We have no real control over what they're going to actually.
That's exactly right. Nor could we talk about anything that would be subject to executive session or negotiations.
Right.
This would be just a general analysis to show taking the current pay levels on the salary schedule, projecting it forward at different level of assumptions on cost of living adjustments, just so we see what the 3-year cost would be. I mean, we've seen the last 2 years, the increase in pay for existing teachers has absorbed almost the entire increase in the school budget for the last few years. And there's talk on the school committee side of additional needs, spending for, full-day kindergarten, a desire to lower bus fees. There's going to be more demands, not less. And what I wouldn't like to see happen is see a teacher's contract get signed and then find out afterwards that we now have to deal with all these other demands when they should have been considered at the time the contract was underway. So I'd like this board to at least create some transparency on this and let the other boards do whatever they choose to do.
Would we want to bring that into the long-range planning process?
What I would think in terms of how we proceed with this, I will be an active participant in the negotiation.
Good idea, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
And the basis of, or the whole foundation of the financial model that we discussed last August was annual percentage increases in the bottom line budget. So I think what may be helpful to provide some context is, again, not to subject anything outside of executive session, but to look at in 0.5% increments what the increase in a potential teacher's contract would look like against what percentage increases would look like in the bottom line school budget. So we have an understanding of really what is the differential between the cost of a teacher's contract and the available increase available to the budget based on percentage scenarios. And I think that may help provide some context to the other funding requirements of the school district.
Bob's request is to put it on the agenda. I think we might want to put it through the process of the long-range planning, I would think, and then come back.
Well, I think you could do both. I think there would be a sense of timing, though. Like I said, 3 years ago, you had a memo of understanding already signed in January.
Absolutely.
There was an expedited process. I have no idea what's in store this time. I think the AEA came to the school committee last week, I think, and gave them official notice that they would like to begin negotiations. So that's going to start the process. So what I'm happy to do it, we can do it in conjunction with the long-term planning as well. I just think we as a board ought to create some transparency on this, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding based on the emails I get, misunderstanding about how teacher pay rises. I think they confuse the COLA as being the rise in teacher pay, when there's a lot built into STEP each and every year, that none of it is merit-based. There's a lot of information, I think, that needs to get out there.
Why don't we make that as a target, and then kind of discuss it offline as to how to bring it as quickly as possible, so
I'll
that we
leave it up
don't
to
miss.
the town manager when he feels he's ready to come back to the
Okay.
board. I just wanted to throw it out there for the board's consideration, to come back and have a discussion as a board about this.
I mean, I'd say when you do it for both town and school, as opposed to just focusing on, the teachers, because I think it's important for us to understand, what does 1% mean, to the town collective bargaining units? What does it mean to the school collective bargaining units, and how does that impact budgets? So I'd recommend not just focusing on the
That's
schools.
an even better
It's-
idea.
Sure.
It's
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
We're asking them to produce a deliverable that we would then probably review in a public session that would ultimately be, a component of your long-term financial plan.
So how
Very fair.
difficult is that to get that information?
So we do a lot of that planning on the town side anyway,
Right.
when we prepare to move forward with collective bargaining. With regard to the schools, all publicly available data, the analysis shouldn't take us a significant amount of time. What I would request of the board is to provide me with the flexibility to come back when it's appropriate to do so, based on the schedule of negotiating all of the collective bargaining agreements, including that of the
And keeping in
teachers.
mind, last year, it was fairly accelerated, to your point.
It was.
So,
and
so we might want to make sure that we get that.
That's right. And what I
That's
just
some-
handed out here, I had requested, just doing some initial exploration on this to get some data for us to at least start looking at. I'll share this with the board by way of email as well, but I wanted to do it in public session first. This is a chart that shows all currently 570 positions, teacher positions, and where they fall on the step and track scale. And I have the supporting data behind this that also shows every single teacher and where they rank in terms of salary and step and track, just as an initial starting point for us.
Good.